Please don't get up. Please continue to relax in your seats. We've still got a bit of a queue up here, but we want to start on time. So please remain seated for now and just relax. I'm going to make just a few brief opening remarks, and then we can all get up together and sing briefly. Some of you may, the more alert members of Seattle 4 may realize that this isn't John Bridge up here in front of the podium. I'm Jeff Borick, past president of Seattle 4. I will forever, I believe, go down in history as the only past president of Seattle 4, and it's over 100 plus years, who never physically got to stand at the podium when I was actually the president, because I was president throughout the pandemic. But I've been able to be up here a couple of times, and it's my honor to be up here to make a few brief opening remarks. I just came back from educational experience, because some of you may be aware, but I volunteered to be part of the district governor line. So I will be your district governor in 50-30 in 25-26. Yay, thank you. It's an honor to be selected, and I'm about to go into the big headwinds of a heck of a lot of extra work, but I'm really humble and looking forward to acting in that capacity. I just got back from a Zones event in Spokane, some of you may have heard about. So we're part of Zone 27, and 26 and 27 get together every year for an educational experience that brings in some of the senior leadership of Rotary. And I'm really pleased to give you just a sneak peek. John Kukow is the executive director of RI, and he and a fellow Mario is the president-elect, who will be president of RI when I'm your district governor. And I was really pleased to hear Mario emphasizing a message of membership. You're going to learn a bit more about him over time, but I encourage you to kind of keep your ears open and learn a bit more about that. The other thing that I was really thrilled about was that the current executive director got up and did a keynote that also spoke to the fact that Rotary International is very healthy as a financial institution. It's doing wonderful good works, and you'll hear a little bit more about that in my closing remarks. But he was willing and did characterize that membership in North America is also at a crisis. When I joined this club in 2000, we had over 670 plus members. And I don't know what the high was, but we're now right around 300. And we definitely want to establish our floor and move forward. And John also messaged that satellite clubs, adding new clubs, there are all sorts of ways that we can work together to grow Rotary. So I'm looking forward to working with all of you in that capacity. And with that, I want to turn it over to Jimmy for our opening song with Freeman on the piano. Thank you.
Thanks, Past President Jeff. You know, our song today was first made famous with Judy Garland performing in the hit movie Wizard of Oz, and she was lamenting a bit where her home was, and she wanted to go back to Kansas. Of course, I'm not sure she ever got there, but we are on the move in our club, as you can see. And so we, Jeff referred to that just a little bit. It inspires hope to me. And so I ask you to join me in just a moment, the singing of this song. The other thing, for those of you that are new to Rotary or who haven't heard this, we sing in this club because all of us are busy and come to this room with our heads many different places. And science tells us that if we all participate in a common activity for the rest of the hour, we'll all be here. So please join me in Judy Garland's famous Over the Rainbow. Maestro? Sun over the rainbow, way up high. It's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue. And the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops, where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, birds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh, why can't I? Little interlude. If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I? Well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy, and thank you, Freeman. Just a wonderful song, a great way to start out our meeting. I want to welcome our guests, and I believe they will be up on the slide here. But I also want to take a moment and reflect upon our member, Roberta Nestis. And to help us do that, I've got Ken here to take the podium. Ken?
As I age and reality sets in, that I can no longer dunk the basketball or kick a field goal 60 yards. Wait, that was my lifelong fantasy. My point is that as we become older, we must face personal challenges common with aging. I think the hardest of all is the loss of close friends who have made a positive difference in our lives. Roberta Nestis was such a friend. Roberta was an extraordinary nonprofit leader at the helm of the Lutheran Social Services of the Northwest and active in her church. She was a true leader in our Rotary Club. When our Rotary bylaws were changed to allow for a Rotary president and a separate chair of the board of directors, Roberta was our inaugural chair. She made our new governing structure successful by modeling the way. She asked me to be the personnel chair. I never, ever liked writing personnel policies and procedures. But no way I could turn Roberta down. She was so charismatic and such a devoted leader that she naturally brought all of us along. Mark Wright, our board president, told me Roberta was a huge godsend to him, the perfect person for that role. Kathy Gibson and Roberta spearheaded our first Peace Builders Committee, the first one in our district. Roberta served as its chair and mentored the chairs that followed. She served on the Rotary Malaria Partners International Board. Board members said she was a calming, steady hand, a master at working the early governance details and bringing the young organization to fruition. I was told she was not the first to speak, but usually the last and the wisest. By the way, Roberta also served on or led our foundation board, international service and governance committees. Her good friend, Kathy Gibson, said she was a wise, compassionate, and witty woman who cultivated and cared for friends across the many dimensions of life. Roberta loved to travel and to learn about other cultures. She was an avid reader, regular walker, movie, and theater goer. She liked to laugh and connected easily with others. Her niece said she was an inspiration. She also loved the good Manhattan. I think that certainly shows you that she was a special person. Berta was brave in facing her health challenges. And let's be clear, that does not mean it was easy. When her life came to the end, I would like to quote Charlie Dickey when reflecting, as accepting as she was for this day that was imminent, it still hurts for those of us who knew her well. The last few years, I helped Roberta obtain and put up a Christmas tree for the holidays. Sorry. This December, in my home, I will have an additional tree, a special one, a tribute to our Roberta. And memorial services will be November 10th, and should we have just a few moments of silence in her memory?
Let's all please take just a few moments of silence in remembrance of a lovely person, Roberta Nestis. All right, thank you so much for that. Let's go ahead and continue with our meeting. I'd like to bring up Joe Phillips to the podium. It's one of the happiest points in a meeting is when we get to introduce a new member. Joe, please do.
Eric. Okay, thank you, Jeff. This afternoon, it's my honor to introduce our newest member, Eric Corman. Eric is the CEO of the League of Education Voters, a nonprofit that advocates for an education system that provides every student in our state equitable opportunities for success from cradle to career. Eric grew up in the LA area, where education, public speaking, and performance were all an important part of his upbringing. However, he had gotten the message that those areas of interest did not pay well, so he started college planning to get into medicine. But that was swimming against the tide, not allowing him to pursue his passions, and so he finally decided he needed a restart. Having visited Seattle several years earlier and been smitten by the Seattle summer weather, in 1988, he decided to relocate from Southern California to Seattle. Realizing that radio might be a way to pursue his passions, he enrolled at the National Broadcast School here in Seattle, and in 1990 started a 25-year career in radio with local stations such as King, Cairo, and KJR, including producing The Bob Rivers Show, which became the #1 ranked morning show nationally. Part of that included a partnership with World Vision, helping to raise funds to support the World Vision mission, but also allowing Eric to travel to many developing nations such as Bangladesh, the Dominican Republic, and Zambia. These travels opened up his eyes to the importance of equity and access to opportunity, which is a key element of the League of Education Voters mission. Realizing that the opportunities in radio to push such an agenda were going away, in 2015, he took the job of communications director with the League, and just this past April became the permanent CEO. Eric and his wife, Monica Gerritz, have a son, Alexander, which keeps his League work close to home and will for a while because the League's agenda ranges from pre-K to post-college. Besides family, Eric enjoys tennis, running, hiking, golf, and travel, and estimates he's been to more than 30 countries. He also hosts a podcast on iHeartRadio, The Eric Corman Show. So please join me now in welcoming our newest Rotary Forum member, Eric Corman.
Excellent. Thank you again, Joe, and welcome. This is going to be great to have a radio superstar, if I can say that, because that was quite a program you produced for several years. All right. Happy to now bring up Paul Casey to introduce our main speaker today. Paul, if you will come up. And while he's doing that, I also want to acknowledge that Dave Given, Tabitha Klaus, and Carolyn Bungards were helpful today in helping welcome you all. So thank you to them as well.
All right, so second opportunity to do this. I'm very pleased to welcome Dr. Dori Borjesson. She has been the dean of the Murrow. I knew I was going to do Murrow. I knew I was going to do that. The WSU College of Veterinary Medicine since July of 2020. I'm just changing hats now. So she earned the veterinary and PhD degree from the University of California at Davis. And prior to moving to the Palouse, she also served as a departmental chair at the School of Veterinary Medicine, Pathology, Microbiology, and Immunology, my old job. Her focus has been on stem cells and how they interact with the immune system. Her team defined and developed naturally occurring animal models of disease to test cell therapies. And just a sidebar here, WSU is the 5th oldest veterinary school in the United States. In January of 2024, columnist Eric Lasitas wrote a cover story in the Seattle Times Pacific Northwest magazine about the Washington State University's veterinary teaching hospital. He noted that the WSU training hospital had seen over 10,600 patients or pets in 2022. That 1 year alone, I'm going to say that I took my dog over to the vet teaching hospital at one point where they were going to do some actually invasive surgery, but it found out through the research there that she didn't need it. She lived many years on. So that was my own experience with the college. Marty Casey, my wife over here, she's the president of the Donico Pet Clinic, which provides free pet care for low-income and homeless residents. Donico also has very close links to WSU. Donico was founded by 2 WSU veterinarians, and that was Stan Coe and Bud Doney over 35 years ago. And their new headquarters right now is located at Airport Way, just south of the BMW dealership. And King County, the county, donated that space. So as a matter of fact, Dean Borjesson visited the clinic this morning. So I made one pledge before I came up here, and I'm not going to talk about the Apple Cup. I guess I just did, didn't I? All right. Dr. Dori Borjesson, Dean of the WSU College of Veterinary Medicine.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm glad that Paul mentioned that little game. Doesn't have to be me. I don't know you well enough to do that. It is genuinely lovely to be here. I love talking with people about our university. I always get an introduction that includes all my research background, but when I came to WSU, I was the first woman dean of the college after 125 years and one of the first external deans. So it's been a real pleasure to be at this institution. Thank you. So my red's not really showing up. My highlighting is not highlighted, but I'll tell you this, we are 125 years old this year. We are your veterinary school. We're the only veterinary college in the state of Washington, which is not that unusual. We were started with a $60 from the legislature to build a shed. We opened in 1899 for 3 students to graduate in a 3-year curriculum. And since then, we've trained over 7,000 veterinarians. And we are as Paul mentioned, we're the 5th oldest veterinary school in the United States. So we are celebrating our 125th, October 4th, 5th. If any of you are Cougs, if any of you want to come, alumni just interested, we're having a nice celebration. Mark Dice will be there. We're seeing a wonderful War Tales documentary on the situation in Ukraine. So it should be a lovely event. Some photos. Catherine Roberts here is the first female veterinarian graduate. She graduated in 1933. We are now 83% women in the veterinary college or something. It's really rare to have men be the ones that we're trying to seek out now. Oh dear. So this is going to be a problem. None of these colors are coming up. This is a This slide has a lot of information on it, and it's not that small, I promise. But let me tell you, I can mostly speak to this slide. I can see it really well here. I'm not sure what's happening there. So I will speak to that slide while it's coming back up. I mentioned to you $60, $18.95. We are now over 11 major buildings on the WSU campus and beyond. I'll tell you about the beyond part momentarily. Rather than $60, our annual revenue is around $120 million budget. We are part of over, 1,000 employees. I'm having to remember my numbers now. 1,000 employees, over 190 faculty. We have about 530 veterinarians in training at any given time, 4-year program. We also host, unlike many veterinary schools, including Davis, we host undergraduates. So if you have a student who's in STEM, biomedical fields, it's probably going to be in our college at WSU because we have been the only health professions college on the Pullman campus since its inception. So biochemistry, neuroscience, all of that is us. So we are a big workforce there. Let's see if the next one's any better. Well, we're getting there. I think, was this like you guys don't like Crimson? Is that a thing? The whole Seattle, like Crimson is out. So I get it. I mean, who can blame you? So during the question and answer, I am more than happy to champion our school, tell you all about our land grant mission, the amazing veterinarians we train, our education programs, which are truly innovative. That's one of the things we're known for, what I call research that matters, because we do a lot of applied, translational, globally, regionally applicable research. And our clinical medicine, as Paul mentioned, we're the only teaching hospital in the whole state. We have over 15,000 pets that we teach or see every year. We do everything from walking on the streets to major cancer care, radiation therapy, and everything in between. But the thing I want to tell you about today are the things you might not think about when you think about a veterinary school. The human-animal bond, in part because we have a great presence here in Seattle, and the impact, what we care for globally, and that's for people, pets, and the environment. So I love the Crimson thing. I note to self. All right. So I want to mention the Seattle engagement because, of course, you're all in Seattle, and it's really lovely to tell you what we're doing here. I'm going to spend a few slides on the One Health Clinic right in a moment. But as Paul mentioned, we also have students that train at Seattle Humane and at the Dori Clinic. So the Dori Clinic is the clinic that serves people that are unhoused here in Seattle or low income. It's an amazing clinic. I just saw it this morning. And the Seattle Humane, we have a 12-year relationship with them now, where our students learn spays, neuters, dentals, and shelter medicine, which is in and of itself a type of medicine. I'm going to tell you about our regional engagement through public health, our new undergraduate program, and our diagnostic lab. And I'm going to end by our amazing global health program. So One Health. Things shifted a little bit here. So this is a really nice partnership. This is UW, WSU working together. My daughter's an undergraduate at University of Washington. I actually really love that institution, just so you know. And the reason this is so important is this is an integrated approach to care for the human and animal unit. So this clinic opened in 2018 in New Horizons, which is a place that serves youth experiencing homelessness from about 18 to 25. It's run by Neighbor Care, is the health organization, and then we came in. So why it's so special, and you probably know this, but people who are experiencing homelessness or unhoused, or even all of us, will often forego own services, food, et cetera, in order to care for their pet. The barriers for pet entry into houses is one of the biggest barriers for people who want to get off the streets because they're not going to get rid of their pets. They're going to access care for their pets before they do themselves. And in this clinic, our students experience trauma-informed care, cultural humility, how we deal with people who have challenges associated with their pets. So as I mentioned, we started this in 2018. So prior to arriving, Neighbor Care shows up. Their nurse practitioners see a couple patients a day. When they invited us and started treating pets, guess what happened to the number of people seeking their own care? Yeah, huge increase, over 50% increase the moment we showed up willing to treat their animals. So we provide primary care. We do some referral care. We do what we can in that phase. But the most important thing is we care for the unit. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. A woman comes in, she's visibly pregnant, and the nurse practitioner is like, we need to deal with this woman. And all she wants to talk about is her cat that just got spayed. And so we're talking about the cat, and she mentions her cat is such a great ratter, like able to kill the rats in her apartment. So anyone who's efficient with infectious disease knows that cats and rats and pregnant women are not perfect together. There's that disease called toxoplasma. So in that conversation, she would never have mentioned that to her primary care physician, but she absolutely mentioned it to the vets because she was proud of her cat. So in that way, we were able to provide integrated care. The other thing we deal a lot with is people, how they're like their animals, like behaviorally. You've seen this with every people and their dogs. Anyway, one of the things that we talk about a lot is pain management. So addiction and addiction, substance abuse is big in the people on the streets, living on the streets. And if we give pain medicine to their animal, we need to think about that. We cannot give addictive substances, hand out fentanyl or opioids to people who are experiencing homelessness. So the integrated care allows us to understand what is going on with that family unit. It's very powerful. All right, so that's our One Health Clinic. We expand it. We're right now only there, but we're looking to expand in other locations where people can be there with their pets. That's the important part. Regionally, we have two big programs I want to tell you about. One is that we just started a public health program at College of Vet Med at Washington State University. And some people always say, why is the College of Veterinary Medicine housing public health? Well, it's an excellent question. And it's because we should be called the College of Veterinary Medicine and Biomedical Sciences. As I mentioned, we are the biomedical research powerhouse at Washington State University. So we have about $47 million of extramural funding every year there, just very big NIH funding in other places. So we do biomedical research and we do now public health. Started this fall, funded by the legislature, and it's starting in Pullman, but we will expand it to Vancouver campus and to Spokane. We're focused on infectious disease, and we're focused on rural, remote, underserved. So if the COVID pandemic taught us nothing, it taught us those cascades, those pesky little mountains in the middle of our state, actually create very big barriers for care, healthcare on the east side. So we're trying to do an integrated, community-focused care. We're working directly with Department of Health. We're working on micro-credentialing. We're hoping to have transfer programs. And we're really trying to work on what Department of Health in the state of Washington needs for its workforce. So the other program I'll mention is our Washington Animal Disease Diagnostic Lab. So the reason you may be interested in this was my first building. They say, this was your first building, Dean Dori. And I'm like, I got to cut the ribbon, but it was funded long before me. This was also funded by industry support from the state and agriculture. So this is a tier 1 national lab, which means that we are the only one in our whole environment that does this. Oregon doesn't have one, Montana, Idaho. It's just us. California is the next one. And we have been responsible for instance, responding to that highly pathogenic avian influenza outbreak in chickens that closed down a big farm in Washington State. And it was all the surveillance activity that we were doing at the Washington Animal Disease Diagnostic Lab. We call it WADL because it's fun to call it WADL. And that was all that testing and surveillance was done there. The other disease you might have just heard about in the news that we're doing is chronic wasting disease. Are any of you guys hunters or no hunters? That little disease just came into Washington. Now, truth be told, it's probably been here because it was in Oregon and in Canada. So probably has been. But the important point is we know it's here now. So we are amping up all of our testing for surveillance for chronic wasting disease, and that's what we do. We do salmon infectious anemia testing. We do bovine spongiform encephalopathy. We did COVID human work when it came in COVID because we did not have, the human healthcare system does not have this level of lab on the east side of the state. So we became that for COVID for humans. We do rabies testing. So we are a big deal on that side of the state, a big deal in the college, and quite frankly, a big deal for you all if you're at all interested in agricultural, food safety, infectious disease. We're now testing milk, of course, from those cows that have this problem, highly pathogenic avian influenza. The last thing I'm going to talk about is our Allen School for Global Health. So this is, when it was in 2010, I think, I can read that. In 2010, a couple of big powerhouses in Seattle. You might have heard of these people, Paul G. Allen Foundation and the Gates Foundation. And they gave very large gifts to Washington State University, $25 and $26 million respectively, to start the global school for the Global School for Global Health, the Paul G. Allen School for Global Health. And what this means is that we are engaged in a very significant global health program. Now, UW also has one, but we have a little bit of a difference, and that's what I'm going to try to talk with you about. So we're funded by the CDC, the USAID, funded by NIH, things like that. And our focus is antimicrobial resistance. We're the #1 vet school for funding for antimicrobial resistance, viral emergence, disease detection, et cetera. The flagship program I want to tell you about right now is Rabies-Free Africa. In fact, I was just talking with someone about polio eradication and that being a flagship program for you all. And this is one of our flagship programs. Wow, I'm sorry about that. This is just not quite, this is not perfect. But anyway, we have at the college, we have 6 faculty that are embedded in Africa, Kenya and Tanzania. Those faculty and staff are WSU faculty and staff. We have over 100 staff members there, and they actually work locally in country, looking at diseases that matter, that are impactful in those areas. So we also just started an undergrad program for study abroad, and that study abroad program is in Tanzania and Kenya, mostly with the University of Nairobi there, which is one of our partner organizations. And we work on a new initiative too for underrepresented minority students. So one of our goals is to really get people where they are and train them where they are. So Rabies-Free Africa is based out in the Serengeti. And this was the concept. We knew, oh, thank you. I was like, hi. I have like a couple more slides. I'm on this. I'm 20 minutes person. Yeah. So Rabies-Free Africa, we discovered that the carrier for rabies in Africa is not bats or small mammals like it is here, but it's the domestic dog. So once that was discovered, rabies is like polio. It's a preventable disease. In fact, it's almost 100% preventable with a single vaccination or maybe 2 vaccinations. And it is almost uniformly fatal with rare occasion. Every once in a while, someone survives rabies. So what we do is we have a ring vaccination program in the Tanzania around the Serengeti. We vaccinate local dogs, and we have people working in the community. What would have been a great community public health if it had happened here, trusted members vaccinating dogs. We do facial recognition to see which dogs we vaccinated well. We have community healthcare workers. Now, these are people that are working in human health and animal health. So there they see that as a natural alignment. If you're going to treat a dog, you may as well treat a person and treat someone else next to them too. And we also have local solutions. So rabies, you guys remember the COVID vaccine thing and the storage and the -80 and all that problem? What they've discovered is that you can actually store rabies vaccines and in this pot, it's a clay pot, and have this be in the villages and it's stable forever. Not forever, but for years, long when they use it. So we really work with local options, local people, and local solutions. We have a post-exposure prophylaxis study where we go around and we try to understand why people are not, after people get bit, why they're not being treated for rabies, which is, again, a very simple, inexpensive vaccine. We look at socioeconomic status. We've always paid attention to the role of gender and roles in the community for how people are responding to the things that we do. The key here is that we are not bringing scholars from their country to the United States to train, to fall in love, and to never go back. We are treating them there. We're training them there. They're staying not inbred, they're staying in the fabric of their community. All right. So none of these things came up because they're in crimson, but we are your veterinary school. I like to remind people of that. And these are the things I was saying you could do for us. This is a whole list of things you can do, and you see it's not there, but there's things like this. We have a career mentor network. We love people on the West Side to help us with experiential learning, with capstone experiences in public health, with coming to our career days for our students who are interested in biomedical technology, et cetera. I have a Dean's Leadership Council. I'm always looking for people there. We have housing challenges for our students who come to Seattle, the Humane Society. Would love to have conversations around that. And what else? Even I can't read it all. What? Oh yeah, career classes. So we do have a lot of people. If you're interested in coming and speaking to our graduates, not just in vet med, but also in vet med, that's where we can do. How am I doing, Jaime? Pretty good, huh? Yeah. All right, huh, all right. He's always so happy. Okay, so thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. It was lovely to be here. Questions?
All right. Many of you know I'm a UW engineering grad, and I want to disavow any sabotage that occurred with her slides because my wife's a Cougar. I've got a mixed marriage, so I'm a big fan of WSU. I also want to steal a second. I brought my niece, who's an aspiring veterinarian. Hannah, you want to wave? Hannah's thinking of. Thanks for joining. Questions?
Go ahead.
Mike is coming.
Thank you. I just want to say I love One Health Clinic. I used to work for Neighbor Care Health as their director of development. So I fundraised for the other side of it. So thank you for talking about the veterinarian side.
Really?
Such an awesome program. Question.
Hi, well, I went to UW and Wazoo. I got my graduate degree at Wazoo. So I'm. you guys
Go
don't have-
Cougs.
You guys don't have to talk to me anymore. So in our family, every time there's an article and they're frequent about bird flu, everybody's wondering about where that's going.
Yeah.
It's now took what, to bovines and
Yeah.
now everywhere else, and a few humans. So what's going on with that?
Well, so the question's about bird flu, and there's a lot going on with that. And I think that when it jumped into humans, most recently, a couple of those, the dairy workers and some others, that's what has people mixed, really worried. So we know influenza is the cause of pandemics. No question, right? That's the big one. We've been watching it for a long time. The challenge with bird flu may have to do with a little bit with climate change, is that it used to be that bird flu would come in our flyways, die off in the winter, always. It was a cyclical disease that killed a number of chickens and wild birds. It comes from wild birds. And that was just that. It was done. It was sad, but it was done. The difference now is it's no longer stopping. So bird flu is now an annual disease. It doesn't stop. And so the problem with that is like with coronavirus, right? The problem with it circulating is influenza is known for its mutations. That's why people are concerned. People aren't sure whether we should be monitoring more humans or monitoring more mammal species. But if you guys have looked up South America and seals, major die-offs, like thousands and thousands of animals dying of bird flu. So it is in many, many, many species. It is, in fact, I'm not sure why we don't have it in marine mammals here yet. It's coming, but it is in, I don't know, 50 species. So it's a concern. Don't mean to mean.
Is the temperature changing, influencing that as well, climate change?
Well, that's what some people think. The climate change is influencing the lack of seasonal cyclical challenges we used to have with bird flu. You know, birds and mammals and their flyways are now off. I don't know if you guys have read those stories where birds showing up in crazy places, mammals are showing up in crazy places. So that is part of what the challenge is, for sure.
Question here from Carl.
So how many veterinarian schools are there in the United States? Somebody
There-
recently told me there were only 2. And I found that very, very difficult to believe.
That is incorrect. The answer is more than 2, but exactly 32. And the thing about it, there's more growing. So if people haven't heard, there's a veterinary shortage. We're working on that. We're increasing our class size, but 11 new vet schools are scheduled in the process for accreditation to open. So yes, vet school is still really hard, 8% acceptance rate this year. Yeah, really bad. No, it's okay for you. You'll be fine. 25% from Washington State. Go ahead.
Dori, quick question about in humans, joint replacement, artificial lenses. We have all sorts of bionics in humans now.
Yeah.
Is there a similar trend in the animal world in terms of hip dysplasia, stuff like that?
Yeah. Let me guess. Do you know, is it someone with a dog with hip dysplasia? I always know where these questions come from. Yeah. So no, we don't. We do have access to tissues like lenses, corneas, things like that. There is some medicine regarding that, but things like hip dysplasia are still largely treated in similar ways. And part of that is because, like, you know, if you had a hip replacement, there's a lot of other things you have to deal with, the osteoarthritis. And so animals don't live as long. They have different weight bearing. So there's different priorities in terms of fixing it. But osteoarthritis is a big one. Yeah.
Question here.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, there were parts of our society that rejected science
Yes.
and some of the evidence of the results and the dangers of having
Yes.
the pandemic and how we should respond to that as a human species.
Yeah.
Are you experiencing that as well with some of the things that you're dealing with in the?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. And so our public health program, one of the things we're hoping to embed ourselves in is with the Murrow College and research communications, because it doesn't matter how good your science is if you can't get that word out and develop true community-based platforms. That's what we have in Africa. Trusted healthcare workers embedded in the community, right? In terms of veterinary medicine, vaccine challenges, because of the whole human vaccine thing, which was long before COVID, definitely influences our populations as well. So we absolutely have people who come to us and say, we don't want to vaccinate our dog because it causes like autism. I don't know. What does it cause? But would you know? So anyway, yeah, but there's a little bit of that. Absolutely. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you very much
Yeah.
for being here. We had Leroy Hood talk to us earlier this year, and I'd like to know if there's a connection between what he's doing and what you're doing.
So I'm sorry, I don't know the name. Remind me.
Leroy Hood is one of the people who really made sure that we got the whole DNA spectrum alive and well. And he was at the University of Washington, and,
Yeah.
and he's big part about the wellness revolution,
Yeah.
where we start with the DNA instead
Yeah.
of waiting till the
Yeah.
symptoms arise.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we have one of our fundraising. So WSU is in the silent phase, saying it out loud, of a $2 billion fundraising campaign. One of the college priorities is what we call DNA blueprints for health. So one of the things that our college has a lot of expertise in, human and animals, and often animal models, is in things like epigenetics, understanding how trauma informs outcome, like intergenerational trauma is fascinating. How infectious disease early on in life affects outcomes, and how our DNA can be basically modified by behavior, like addiction, things you guys know. Remember when Zika virus was here? That was really it's fear-inducing for people who are pregnant. Infectious disease like monkeypox, things like that can be really influencing our DNA through an epigenetic way. So one of the expertises we have in the college is that area, actually. Yeah.
Question. I got a question regarding to the beginning of your presentation with the homelessness and their pets and how they care for their pets more.
Yeah.
Have you seen an increase in their own health being championing the addictions
Yes.
because they have this pet partner?
And I wanted to show you the video. It's a great question. So absolutely, people have something to love. They're motivated to care for themselves. Issues around nutrition are huge. You probably notice this, but people who don't often take care of themselves, or if they have this kind of crazy and they're doing crazy things, behavioral health affects dogs. Dogs respond to that. So people are encouraged to do better, to stay on meds, to do things because of caring for their animal. It's a very, very powerful connection. I'm a pretty deep believer. I used to think, what are these animals doing on the streets? And now I'm like, you know what? These people need animals, honestly, more than anyone does. And the best we can do is care for that unit. It's often what keeps people in their own health. We have a great video from the One Health Clinic where a woman has basically said, the reason I'm working like I'm working and doing what I'm doing and trying to get in a home is because of this. So it gives a powerful, positive motivation.
All right. One of our traditions here at Seattle 4 is we always honor our key speaker by making a donation on their behalf to one of our favorite causes, Harvest Against Hunger. We're donating 600 portions of healthy meals in your name to that organization.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's have another round of applause for Dr. Dori. I always love modern medicine, and I always cringe when people complain about it because I've seen the alternative. So thank you again. I also want to thank Paul and Marty Casey. Let's have a round of applause. They sponsored today's session and brought today's speaker to us. So thank you so much. I also want to thank the REB Enterprises. And I see Carl out there. Carl, thank you as well for sponsoring our meetings. And last but not least, thank you to Bloodworks Northwest. And I don't see Sue out there, but I'm going to catch up with her soon. And I'm planning to donate soon to Bloodworks Northwest. So I'm becoming eligible I hope you all do that. If you do, make sure you mention 50/30 when you make your blood donation. And with that, we've got a couple of announcements to wrap up with. I'm going to turn it over to Jaime for some announcements. Jaime.
Good afternoon, everyone. So we got some Power Pack meetings. Woo, I gotta step back a bit. We have some Power Pack meetings coming up for us, which is pretty awesome. So on September 25th, we have a Zoom-only meeting with Dr. Richard Curran. This will be about the Smithsonian and how he's been instrumental in developing the Smithsonian. Damn, I gotta work on that. Excuse me. I have to work on that word. Smithsonian Museum System. The next day on September 26th, we'll have a Wellspring lunch hour service session, which is where you volunteer with your fellow club members for a lunch break between 12:15 to 1:30. You can see the event listing in our Mayberry, and it's still required for the volunteer form. Most importantly, just come if you have time and you want to connect with your fellow Rotarians. That's the place to be. The next one is October 2nd, luncheon meeting with Eric Nordstrom at the WAC, which are pretty awesome, instrumental. I love their slogan in Nordstrom's. It's essentially leave it better than how you found it, which is awesome. Note that the meeting with Eric Nordstrom will be held at the WAC. Due to elevated revenue, the cost of attending this meeting will be $55. The following week, October 9th, we'll have an evening event. There'll be no hosts. It'll just be at the Frolic at Motif. It's a member event. It's essentially a social happy hour. It's free. It goes from 6 p.m. to 7:30. Please RSVP. Where? Our Mayberry. That's right. Hopefully I'll start logging in on you. And then the last one will be October 16th, with Governor Inslee at the Motif Hotel. The meeting will be held at the Motif Hotel, and due to elevated venue, the cost for this meeting will be $50. Overall, at the end of the day, it's nice to see everyone here. This room seems a little more packed than before, so I hope that continues on this trend. Thank you, Dr. Dori Borjesson. Appreciate it. And on to President Jeff.
Oh, my wife will be interested to learn I'm now a doctor when I get home today. I don't know if that'll actually give me some additional pull with the household, but I'm going to play that card very carefully. Well, I am happy to talk to you a bit more about my recent experience, as well as make you aware of a fun opportunity. So you heard about a lot of things at the club level. We're going to take it up to the district level for a bit. Again, as you know, I'm in line to represent the district in 25 and 26. And the district is putting together a recognition event. How many of you have made a Paul Harris level in your journey as a Rotarian? Quick show of hands. Great. Majority of the room. This event is for you. This event is to recognize that we have two foundations. Some people get confused. It's especially as a newer member, you scratch your head a bit. Let me explain. Many Rotary clubs do fundraisers, and that's how they support their good works. And then they also support the TRF by making a donation. We're what some call a check writing club. And I used to kind of cringe when I heard that, but now I think of it as a badge of honor because we're all busy. We don't necessarily have time to go out and execute a car wash or sell apples outside the UW on a Husky game. That is why we're all obligated as Rotarians and members of Seattle 4 to support both the SRSF, which does a tremendous amount of great works, as well as the TRF, which is the Rotary Foundation at large. And what this slide represents is that you can see here there's some amazing numbers, over 1,200 grants that the TRF does every year. There's an opportunity for our newer members here to also level up. If you're a new Rotary member and you haven't made a donation to TRF, that level is at the $1,000 when you get your first Paul Harris Fellow. The district is putting up points, up to 500 points to help you move up to that level if you're not quite there yet. So please reach out to myself or Mary Goldie to try and look into that. But this should be a fun event. It's not a fundraiser. It's going to be down at the SeaTac Hilton at the ballroom. I've been in the past. In fact, it was a little over 2 years ago when I attended this event and was announced joining the district governor line. And I was actually pinned by the then first female president of Rotary International, Jennifer Jones. So it was a really fun event. It's a chance to socialize with your Seattle 4 members. It's also a chance to meet some of the other Rotarians in the adjacent districts around us. We're going to have 2 or 3 tables, depending upon how many sign up for this, but it's really a fun event. It's great recognition. There's not going to be any additional raise the paddle or any kind of thing like that. So I really hope that you'll look at your calendar. It's going to come up quickly. It's the 10th, which is a Thursday, which makes it a bit more accessible typically on your calendar. And I hope you'll consider joining this event. I'm going to pause for a second and see if anyone has any additional questions as we move to wrap up today's meeting. Oh, excuse me. That is true. Let me ask John Kirkpatrick to come up and cover the governance announcement. Sorry, John.
John Kirkpatrick, let me. Thank you. Oh, and what a great presentation, by the way. Thank you. I reminded me, my wife has one of those weighted blankets, but I have an 80-pound golden retriever with separation anxiety issues. So, I'm here today. I'll be very, very brief to talk about your governance committee, which at this time of year is also your nominating committee. And that may seem like we're early in the Rotary year, but I didn't set the calendar. This club elects new officers at its annual club meeting, which is the first regular meeting in the month of December. I believe that's December 3rd. So we've got a lot of preparation and planning that goes into coming up with a slate of nominees, putting those before the board and getting those published in time for you to consider those nominees. I'm here today, and there was a notice in the totem. If any of you are interested in a leadership role, or if any of you know someone who ought to be interested in a leadership role, please get in touch with me. Please let me know about these people. Can't tell you that everybody's going to get nominated, but I can tell you that we want to have a broad array of people to consider for these posts. We want to make sure that leadership opportunities are there and that the opportunity for club service is as broad as it can be in this club. If you don't have my email address, and you probably don't, I'll be here for a few minutes. Make sure you have that and let me know if you've got anybody who fits in that category. Thank you very much.
That is so important. And that gives me just a minute to mention one other leadership opportunity that's coming up for the next cycle. How many of you heard of the District RISE program? Quick show of hands, only about a quarter, maybe a third of the room. There is a great, relatively new program that the district is doing in 50/30, and it's really groundbreaking because this is not leadership development in Rotary. This is leadership development for any young professional or any Rotary member who wants to polish up on their leadership skills. This is a 5-session commitment. And so think about your fellow Rotarians, our newer members. If you want to nominate someone for the next cycle, that'll be happening in the spring. They already have the fall session. In fact, later today, I'm both a mentor and instructor in this session, and I'll be going down to the kickoff down in Tukwila for this recent cohort. But for a relatively nominal fee, we can send our members to this program, get them training on servant leadership. It not only benefits them and helps maintain their stickiness to the club, because again, membership challenge, a big part of it is we're getting new members all the time, but we're also losing members. So how do you make sure that those newer members really stick? This is another great way to do it. Not only that, but many of our small and medium-sized businesses in the area cut back on their education for their own employees. So it's another great thing you can talk about a prospective member or corporation who might consider joining. So with that, I want to finish on just one last thought. One of the remarkable things I was exposed to by attending this zone event last week in Spokane is that there's a Rotary Club out of the Florida area, Rotary Clubs of Babcock Ranch, who's partnered with a Kiev club to support Ukraine through developing solar panel programs, because as many know, the fight has shifted from a conflict focused on military targets to more civilian and infrastructure targets. And because of that, their electrical grid has been devastated. So I'll be talking to the SRSF about the possibility of our club getting involved with this as yet another benefit of being active in Rotary. And with that, I want to thank you all so much. When I heard I was going to be guest host, I also heard late last week that the attendance signup was dramatically low. And I thought, they didn't publish that I'd be up here. How could the crowd have figured that out? But I'm so thrilled that we've got a packed room today. Thank you all for being great Rotarians. We're adjourned.